What years did your dad have the rodeo company?
I think 04, 5, and 6.
I think that's right.
Somewhere in there.
5, 6, and 7, somewhere in
Something
there.
like that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. 5, 6, and 7 is probably
I think that's right because Dia and I started dating in late 06.
Mm-hmm.
And then she went back to Iowa. I went chasing her to Iowa. I was up there 90 days, like froze to death. I was working at a bull semen collection deal up there during the winter. All them guys kept telling me, "Oh, this is the worst winter we've ever had," and it's not like this very often. And I finally had to give it up. I came back home, and I was home about 45 days, and I was in that grass fire.
Oh.
So I tell everybody now, I said I was the coldest I'd ever been the fall of 07, and the hottest I've ever been the spring of 08.
What happened with that grass fire?
It's March, the end of March, wind blowing unbelievable. We were branding calves at the Mule Shoe Ranch, and neighbor called. We were eating lunch. Neighbor called and said, "Man, we got a grass fire." And the people I work for, the Boswells, where they have a maintainer. So we took off, and I got the maintainer, and we roaded it back over there, and the wind was blowing. I think they said sustained wind, 60 miles an hour. And we were just trying, there was 3 of us. We were just trying to keep a good wide break to keep it from going to, it was headed right straight for Gale. Gale's not a very big town, but I hated to see it, hit town. And guy behind me on the maintainer killed his maintainer, stuck the blade in the ground, and I was just looking forward, not looking back. In a minute, just out of the side of my peripheral vision, I saw fire on that side of me. So it kind of had me surrounded. And the smoke choked the motor on the maintainer, killed it. And I just didn't really know what I was going to do. And the good Lord took over, and I stood up and said a prayer, took a cotton roping glove, took a big deep breath, stuck it in my mouth, jumped out, went right down that where I'd bladed, run through that fire, and come out the other side, and I'm still here. So it's been a pretty.
I remember my dad coming to the hospital when you were in.
Yeah.
What all they have to do?
Yes, they skin graft a little spot here on my chin, and then my hands. Everything else was pretty good. I threw my hat off for some reason. Whenever I was going into that ranch, the Youngblood Ranch, Arlen was standing there, and I pitched my hat out to him. Don't know why. I just pitched it out. And when I had to run through that fire, I had a dip of snuff. I put my hands up over my eyes and ran through that fire. I had brand new Wranglers on and a brand new Wrangler shirt, not fire retardant, but they didn't catch on fire.
Dang.
For some reason. And just the good Lord looking after some people.
Why is it significant that your hat wasn't on?
The doctor said that if I'd have had my hat on, that heat would have boiled right there. He said it would have just burnt my face up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but he said where my hat wasn't on, it was just blowing over me.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah, everything blistered. My whole body pretty much blistered and peeled, but 3rd-degree burns on my face and my hands.
How far through fire do you feel like you had to run?
Oh, I stayed on that maintainer until it got right there. And I kicked the door open and jumped out, probably ran 60, 75 yards through flames. And then didn't pull the glove out of my mouth, lost all my air, and I fell down. It burnt my palms and my knees pretty bad. But other than that, It was quite a deal.
What were you thinking running through it?
Just, Lord help me.
Yeah.
There's lots of people that love me.
Yeah.
So.
Dang. Yeah, that's I never have heard the full. I mean, I knew you were running a maintainer.
Yeah.
So I guess it burned up.
It did burn up. It killed it. And Kent Youngblood went back over there late that evening after the fire had gone by and stuff. And he said that maintainer was sitting there running. And he said, "Why'd you jump off of it?" I said, "It died. I mean, it was dead." Well, what it did when the fire got to it and burned across it, it melted the wires and they shorted out, and it started that maintainer back up. Burnt the starter up, but the maintainer was sitting there running.
Dang.
So burn all the tires off of it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, fire. That's so scary.
It's been having a lot of fires, forest fires and stuff. Rideau sitting around, and it just, I feel sorry for those people.
Yeah.
Because there's not much you can do.
Well, this time of year for 2025, not quite as much fire danger.
Everything's still green.
Yeah.
But the grass at the ranch is
really tall.
18, 20 inches tall.
Dang.
Now. If it, there's a lot of fuel there.
If it does get dry.
Yeah. So.
Well, we had a malfunction with the podcast equipment, but what you were talking about riding your bike over to Jack
Allfields.
Allfields.
Yeah.
You're 14, 15 years old.
I think it was the summer I turned 15, I think. Anyway, I'd ride my bicycle over there. Charlie came up with a little brindle banana horn bull, called him Joe Bananas, really good buck, but he wouldn't turn back. Now, I've said something to Charlie about grabbing his horn. He said, "Well, yeah, if you think it'll help, try it." Well, I did, and that little bull bucks, if you could ever get hold of his horn, if you missed him, he just kicked down through there. But Charlie, I guess he kind of took a liking to me. He asked me if I'd come out to Dub Parks Arena, 4th and Quaker. I got my mom to take me out there a couple of times, and next thing you know, I was on a pickup horse. Ken Poole and Lynn Hammergan was working for Charlie. I can't think of who else was around then. That was a long time
My dad
ago.
wasn't yet.
No. The next summer I went to Monument, Colorado, to a resort. Charlie had a series up there. That was the summer I turned 16. And then the next summer, we were back here during the summer, and I was picking up a little bit, picked up with Ken Poole a time or two. I went to, it seemed like it was over the 4th of July. Charlie needed somebody to pick up because he had I think he had 2 rodeos that year. So that's when I got my start. Would have been 75, 76. And then your dad, 77 maybe, somewhere in there. Your dad and Scotty had I think it was an international scout suburban type deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived out on the south side of Lubbock. They'd come out and we'd take that thing. Cope normally drove. Scotty and I'd sit in the back seats, straddle the window, roll the windows down, and we'd get out in cotton fields and stuff, and we were catching jackrabbits. We had hula hoops with nets on. Did your dad ever tell you about any of this?
Uh-uh.
Okay. There was some people had Greyhound race dogs south of 1585 and Avenue P. I can't even remember what the guy's name was, but he would give us 25 cents for every jackrabbit that we brought.
Dang.
And your dad fixed it where those rabbits, we'd catch them, take a hula hoop and a net, and he'd be driving, and we'd throw it out on them. Catch one, you go back, catch him, put him in the back of that deal, and we'd pull up to that guy's house the next morning and drop the tailgate down, and them rabbits would go to jumping out in his pen, and he'd count them, and he'd pay us cash money.
Dang.
We were making the money.
That's hilarious.
But I've told Dee a time or two driving down 1585, I said, I can't believe all these houses are here. We used to chase rabbits here. It's just crazy how things have grown. But anyway, around 77, I think, is when your dad's, I talked him into coming out there some. And
so that was, the rabbits were before C-Bar T.
Yeah. I was working for C-Bar T.
So how'd you meet my dad?
Him and Scotty, Kelvin Parsons, my cousin, Dale Townsend, Steve Stevens, the vet at Wolford. There was a couple of more of them. They high school rodeoed and stuff. Mm-hmm. And Jeff Dawson and I high school rodeoed at Cooper, Woodrow. Used to be Woodrow when it was around building. But anyway, and we all got to talking and stuff, and just ended up, Coke and I got to be really good buddies. Mm-hmm. And he got to come into Dub Parks getting on, and next thing you know, he's picking up, he'd ride a bronc and then get off and get on a horse, pick up.
Yeah.
So I think it was 76 or 77.
Yeah.
When he started. And just got to be big buddies. And Scotty, your uncle, would come along about a year later, I think. And then it was pretty much full-time me and Coke trying to keep Scotty out of trouble.
Yeah.
Scotty was kind of the banny rooster of the bunch. But if he ever did need to be bigger than a banny rooster, he was.
Yeah.
He's a pretty tough kid.
Yeah.
So had a lot of fun.
Stuff like the bowling alley happen all the time.
Yeah, we didn't go to the bar a whole lot, but when we did, it was a lot of fun because most of the people in there had been drinking, and we didn't. And I'm not saying I'm a good guy for not drinking when I was young, but we just didn't. I mean, Scotty and Coke both trying to stay in shape for boxing and stuff, and we had a lot of fun. You can't imagine if you're in a straight mind and some of them other guys are a little bent on alcohol, you can have a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear that for sure.
Yeah.
It's good people watching for the most part.
Yeah. The night I was telling Charlie in there, where Scotty was following that girl around, she had a big old boyfriend, and Scotty just kept on, and he come over there where Coke and I was at the pool table, and he said, I think that girl's boyfriend's fixed to jump me. He said, and he's over there talking to a couple of other guys. Can you can y'all cover my back? And we said, oh, yeah. So we're standing up on that ledge, and Scotty, he's smart enough. He got right at the bottom of that step. When those other guys come, well, Coke and I hit them. Knocked both of them down, and the bouncer come running over. What the hell's going on over here? Coke stepped back. He goes, those two guys are fighting. They scooped them up, and out the door they went, and we got to stay in there. So, there's always stuff like that.
I don't know what their deal is.
Yeah. Coke, he's just, them two guys are fighting.
Yeah, that's funny.
It's
Is this out at Dub Parks?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Because I got some in here where he's getting hooked. That's what they told me. That's what somebody told me. That's what they were doing out there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's out at the old tech.
So this is where like Charlie kind of home based for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's a picture of you in here. When would this have been? That'd
be in 78.
Yeah.
At Morton. The guy right there, Donald Templeton, really, really did ride horses pretty good, bucking horses. And he had a practice horse, and he called her Sunshine Sally. Charlie ended up buying her. And in 79, I think we had her about a year, and we went, Charlie used to have Mescalero 2 times a year in Alamogordo. So I think it's over the 4th. We were up there and at the reservation having the Mescalero rodeo, and the Indian squaws were crazy about Larry Mahan. So Charlie got Larry to come, and Larry, he said, I want on a bucking horse, but I don't want one that'll buck me off. Charlie said, all right. Well, he put him on Sunshine, and she throwed him off the first day. And all the squaws and stuff jump up, and they're along the front rail there hooping and hollering for Larry Mann. So the next day, Charlie put him on, I think he put him on Mighty Mouse maybe. It's been so long, I can't remember all this. But anyway, Mighty Mouse makes a big circle, and he's going right down in front of the stands. Your dad picks Larry Mahan up and turns around and rides over there so Larry can shake hands with, slap hands with him.
Uh-huh.
They jerk him off the back of your dad's horse over into the stands. The squaws did. It's quite a deal. And the next day, he had to get on all 3 days. The next day, he got over there and he goes, Cope, you and Wyndel, if y'all put me down over there over them grandstands, I will have your hides. So I got him the 3rd day, and he grabbed me under the arms behind me on my pickup horse, and he would not turn loose until I got back over to the bucking chutes to get off.
Hilarious.
But
that's hilarious.
Yeah. And then lots of good times in Mescalero. One year, Coke and I hauled the roping calves and the roping steers, and maybe the pickup horses on that truck that one trip. We went up on a Tuesday, unloaded them, drove all the way back to Lubbock, spent the night home, got up the next morning, loaded the bulls, went back to Mescalero, and pull up there. All the brand new fresh set of calves for the 4th of July run were tied down with baling wire. The little Indians had taken all the wire off the hay and flanked those calves and tied them down, ruined a brand new set of calves.
Dang.
We got to where we had to take a bull. When we took the calves to Mescalero from then on, we took a couple of bulls.
Yeah.
Put in there with them.
Put a fighting bull in there.
To keep the boys out. So.
Dang. I remember my dad telling that story, say he put a fighting bull in there, but I didn't realize it ruined the calves.
Oh, yeah. They must have done it right when we left, because that baling wire had cut into their legs. They laid there,
Dang, I did not realize that part.
Yeah. It's quite a deal.
Yeah.
And,
he said a couple of times when he'd come back from there, there'd be an Indian or two jump in with them.
Yep.
One time, a younger boy came back and then lived with Charlie.
Charlie, yeah. Yeah. It seemed like Mescalero was probably the hardest rodeo to get to because of truck troubles. When we first started, Charlie had a C60 Chevrolet gas engine and a 42 foot straight deck, oak plank sided. And we started, out one day just before lunch, because we stopped at Brownfield maybe and got something to eat, and we took off. got out there just west of Tatum, and that truck started heating up. Oh, and your dad had a broke leg at this time. He'd gotten kicked or whatever, and he had a cast on his leg. Truck starts heating up.
If you like your legs covered whenever you're riding, rodeoing, ranching, or dancing a jig at the honky tonk, I hope you'll go to rockandrolldenim.com and use code DALE for 15% off. These are the only jeans I've ever worn, and they're the only jean I'm ever gonna wear. Rockandrolldenim.com, old son. I hope you're enjoying a ranch fuel as you're listening to this episode of Rodeo Time. Use code DALE on ranchfuel.com for 15% off, old son. Drink up and use code DALE on ranchfuel.com.
We slow down to about 35 instead of 55 because that's all they'd run. And just keeps getting hotter and hotter. We stopped. There's a windmill out there about 300 yards. Didn't have anything but some hard hats, oil field hard hats. That was one of mine and your dad's deals. We'd wear hard hats when we were working, feeding and stuff, just being clowns. Anyway, your dad hobbled across there. Both of us took our hard hats out to the windmill, dipped out a full hat full of water, start back. Your dad, he didn't take his crutches, so he's hobbling. We get back, I pour mine in there. He hands me his. I've climbed up on the bumper, pouring it in there. Well, he had spilt most of his because he was hobbling and slopping it out. But anyway, we finally got enough water in it. We made it to Roswell and stopped there. And it had a little bitty pinhole in the radiator hose. And I think Coke and I scrounged up enough money to buy the radiator hose because Charlie didn't send a checkbook or any money with us.
Right.
And then we made it out there, got back, got the other load, had a good trip out. And, well, we got to state line, and we had the bulls on there. We didn't have any health papers. And the inspector was there. And he was going to turn us around and send us back. And we finally pleaded with him, and he let us go on. But we had to stop in Roswell. Oh, that racehorse deal out there east of Roswell. There was a vet there. I can't remember who he was. But anyway, he made us some health papers for the bulls. And anyway, long story. But the next trip we go to Mescalero. We're starting up the hill.
Same
over
rodeo?
there. No, yeah. Well, no, it's the next one, not the fourth, but whatever the next one was. We're starting up the hill out there west of Roswell, and the truck jumps out of gear. And Coke's driving because he's heeled up. He's driving, and it's still in gear, but it's not in gear. And we get stopped right before we start rolling backwards. He pulls the air brakes. We get out. The bolts had come out of the transmission and backed off from the motor.
Oh.
So being the Southern engineers we messed around and got the transmission back up where it's supposed to be. I get in the truck, and I'm sitting in the middle, and I put both of my feet at the bottom of the gear shift and hold that transmission, and your dad, we make it up the hill with me holding the transmission up there. And we made it into Hondo, and there was a mechanic shop there. And that guy dug around and found 3 bolts that would fit. We got them screwed in there, made it on the Mescalero. And then we went from there, we'd go to Alamogordo. We went over the hill and to a real mechanic. He bolted all that back up. We were good to go. And that's Otero County is Alamogordo.
Okay.
Jimmy Cooper married Cheryl Sneeman, I think was her name. Last name. Anyway, the rodeo committee gave us some buck knives. Gave me and your dad one piece, and Cheryl's we were standing around there, and she's cutting up. She's a pretty funny girl. And she said, let me see that knife. Your dad handed it to her. She opens it up, and she takes it, throws it a time or two at the ground, and sticks in the ground. And she goes, Coke.
Excuse me.
Stand over there with your feet about 2 foot apart. See if I can hit between your legs. Okay. He's standing there, and she throws that knife, and it stuck right in the top of his foot. He squealed, and she felt so bad about that. But every time I see her, I ask her about throwing the knife.
That's
stabbing
hilarious.
Coke in the top of the foot.
That's funny. Maybe she had just been doing that or something.
I think that was probably
Playing
a
that
big
game.
deal at college about then.
Yeah.
You know, they'd stick the knife on the end of your finger and flip it and stick it in the ground.
Yeah, what's that called?
I can't remember.
They play it on Lonesome Dove.
Yeah. But that was what it was. It was pretty funny.
Golly. It's 5 sneezes. It's like I'm starting to turn into Carson. Wasn't there one time he said an Indian guy got in the truck with him on his way back from Mescalero, and but here it comes again. Is Dia here?
I don't know.
I thought I heard you can come in. Come on in. No, have a sip. If you can stand the heat, sorry.
Oh, it's fine.
And my sneezing. But I don't know what it is. Pollen counts up this year. But he said this one was a little more sketchy than that first boy that came home with him.
Yeah.
And they stopped at a truck stop not far out of Mescalero. He's like, well, let's get some beer. Is what my dad said.
Yeah.
And like, go in there and get us some beer. He went in there and get beer. My dad just left.
Yeah.
He's like, that one I wasn't so sure about bringing back to live with Charlie.
Yeah. Then another one night was at the rodeo there at Mescalero, and we're bringing the steers back up through the return alley up to the roping boxes, and those Indians, they're all setting that government arena up there had 10-inch casings for the post, and there was an Indian on every one of them posts along that alley. And this one looks around real quick. We're coming up the alley with the cattle, and he looks around real quick. Well, he passes out. He's drunk, sitting up there, and he falls and hits the ground. We stop driving the steers, holler at him, get him. One of them turns around and looks. He's okay. Bring him. And we just run him right over the top of him.
He's okay, bring him.
Yeah, he's okay. Bring him. So,
Yeah, it seems like there was a lot went on out there. I've got a picture of it in my head. I've never seen maybe I went through there one time, but I've never seen the arena.
it's pretty
But
cool.
just haven't had listened to all those stories growing up and hearing the name of that town. It's a cool name for a town,
Yeah.
Mescalero. But I've just got a picture in my head of those calves being tied up and the trucks going in and out of there. But
It's
I guess is that one there'd be different pickup men at different obviously you got different guys, but is it because there'd be multiple rodeos?
Yeah, and I moved to La Mesa in 77. Right after I
Oh.
graduated, I moved to La Mesa.
Okay. I didn't realize it was that quick.
Yeah, and I'd come back and work for Charlie during the summer as much as I could. I was day working and stuff, and just Coke and I'd be together, or Coke would be at one and I'd be at one, kind of split us up. And so you get the flanks off. Charlie was pretty picky about as soon as that whistle blew, you get the flank.
Yes, sir.
Cowboy's kind of on his own for just a minute there. Get the flank off that horse so they'll keep bucking. And like we were talking about a while ago, the horses he got back then were just soured, spoilt, and as soon as you got somebody on them that would spur the hair off of them, they quit.
Mm-hmm.
And so he always wanted us to get that flank as quick as we could. But one year at Mescalero. A lot of stories about Mescalero. After we got those steers up, got through with the rodeo, fed, went over to get in the tent, and Colt goes in the tent first, and he hollers, "Stretch, there's an Indian in my bedroll." I said, "Well, get him out." He said, "It ain't a him." And it was a pretty good sized squaw laying in his bed, sound asleep, drunk, passed out in his deal. He tried to wake her up. She wouldn't wake up. I said, "Well, she ain't in my bedroll. I'm getting in bed." He gathered up a blanket and went and got the truck, slept in the truck. And about daylight, she come to and stumbling around in there. It didn't take me long to get out of there. She's a pretty big old girl and smelled pretty rough. So it was a lot of fun.
Oh man, that's funny.
And if you weren't having fun, Coke could fix it where you were having fun.
Yeah.
He was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it seemed like I got to thinking later that like my clown side of my personality kind of came from my mom a little bit.
Yeah.
But like my dad, he would have it in him. I guess maybe he had more of it when he was younger.
Well, and he was pretty picky when he let it out.
Really?
Yeah, he would kind of scope things out, and if he felt like he could do it and everybody'd enjoy it, he'd do it. But if it was serious time, I mean, he was plenty serious.
Right.
And your mom, she just about any time she'll clown around. Yeah.
God, it'd be funny. She was always trying to embarrass him.
Yeah.
Golly, he would, you know, just kind of some type of inappropriate joke. Man, it would get him flustered.
Yeah.
God, that was funny. But yeah, she'd love to make my dad blush.
I was sitting there writing stuff down last night. 77, I moved to La Mesa, worked for Charlie 78, 79, kind of off and on. And then in 80, I went to work for Roy and Bobby Kelly Brothers. They used to put on AJRE rodeos, a lot of them. And I worked for them 2 summers there. And then I went to work for Mack, Altizer, bad company. And worked for him a couple of years. Just when I could. I'd gotten a steady job then. That would have been in 83 or 84. So just picked up here and there.
When did you go to Indian Canyon?
I went to work in Indian Canyon February 15th, 1991.
Oh, wow.
I'd been there. The Boswells, that ranch was in a family trust, bank trust deal. And in the 80, they were working on getting that thing out of that trust. And I was working and helping James Taylor. He was a general manager for J.C. Mills from Abernathy. And we helped clean all his cattle off of there. And then the Boswells bought 1,200 head of tiger stripe heifers and put on that place. And 2 truckloads of 2-year-old longhorn bulls off the Wahoo Ranch. And those bulls did not stay wherever you put them. We spent a lot of time. Steve and Ramona Short. Steve, I think, probably could have made a pretty good bronc rider, but just didn't have the money to go. And anyway, they were at Indian Canyon then, whenever the Boswells took it back. And spent a lot of time roping and made some pretty good horses then.
So when you came on in 91, that's when they bought it? They hired you?
No, they had another guy there. They got it back in 80. And it's in their family. It's been in their family since 1882.
Okay, gotcha. They got it in 82, and then you come on in 91.
In 91. And been there ever since, except 90 days when I went to Iowa.
I'm sure they were glad to have you back.
Well, they kind of let me have a maternity leave, I guess is what you'd call it.
Paternity.
Paternity, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But,
well, what was it like? I mean, tell me about life out there at Indian Canyon. Like, what was it like when you first got there, and then how has it changed?
oh, when I first got there, it was pretty big open country. I mean, you know, 7, 8, 9 sections to a pasture. And since I've been there, we've whittled it down, getting them down to 4 and 5 sections. I think there's 7-section pasture is the biggest pasture we got now. There's 35,000 acres. They try to run, 750, 800 cows. The way the weather's been the last several years, we're down to about 450, 450 and 500. But just running, I think the best kind of cattle there are those F1 Tiger Stripe cows and Red Angus bulls. It's been a good place to be. I've raised 3 girls there, Kyla and Maggie and Dally. And I think they can pretty well handle themselves. They learned, what's right and what's wrong and how to do stuff. So it's pretty good. I'd put Dally up against any boy changing a tire. She can do it.
Yeah.
So it's just
what was it just you out there mostly?
No, it's been me and 4, 5 different hands helping. Had to make some changes a time or two, not tending the business. And
yeah.
So I've got one now that Josh Ross, I guess he's a lot like I am. He knows what's right, what's wrong, and 99% of the time he does what's right.
Yeah.
Just like I was. Every once in a while I'd do something stupid.
Yeah.
And when you do stuff like that, you just say I'm sorry and go on.
Yeah.
Don't try to deny it. And so
what are they? Is it they kind of spread out? Is he on camps, or are y'all just all in one spot?
He lives in the northeast corner of the ranch. I live in the southwest corner. Headquarters is in the southwest corner. Takes about 45, 50 minutes to drive through the ranch, or you can come around the highway, be there in 20 minutes. So it just depends on if something's needing to be done. Well, you go do it, or drive around, take your time coming around. It's not.
They hunt it?
They personally hunt it, yeah.
Yeah.
John and his families, yeah. But as far as having to deal with it being a hunting lease, no.
Yeah.
But
I passed through this morning, Guthrie, to see some guys, and Kai and Whitney were there, and they said to say hi.
That's a good set of people right there.
How do you know them?
Whitney was raised on the mule shoes there in Borden County. Went to school with Kyla. So, yeah, I know them, neighbored with them for years. And that Kai, he's a cowboy.
Handy.
Very.
Very handy.
He's not a lot of them as handy as he is.
Not many of us left.
No.
Yeah.
He can do about anything. So
yeah, I've been mentoring him for a few years now, and he's finally kind of coming around.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a cool little setup there, and I guess what some might call West Camp at the Sixes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I call it, at least. And yeah, especially with Dusty there now in Guthrie.
Right.
And so, big old family reunion when we get around there.
Yeah.
So, have a good time.
Yeah, I always call Whitney Pocahontas. She looks like an Indian girl to me, that long black hair.
That long black hair.
Yeah.
What when you look back at pictures like this and looking at the C-Bar T days, like how do you feel like that helped mold you in terms of being a cowboy, and like did it affect you? Your cowboying.
The being on the producing side, working for Charlie, that's a different. I'm not saying cowboys don't know. I mean, back in those days, most of the guys that rode might not have ever been on a saddle horse, but they were good bareback riders or saddle bronc riders. And just you learn how to handle horses, how to handle bulls. Just you learn to show them a hole and give them time to go to it, like the bulls.
Mm-hmm.
You show them the hole and give them time to go to it. You don't force them into anything. And that just taught me how to be around livestock. I had an old guy tell me, Vernon Miller told me one time, he said, "You really want to be a cowboy, don't you?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to be a cowboy." He said, "I'm going to tell you right now, you'd be a better cowman than a cowboy." And so that made me feel pretty good. He said, you got to think like those cows. You can't make them do stuff. So
yeah,
that meant a lot to me, to be a cowman instead of a cowboy.
Yeah. So what's have you picked up any lately?
No. It's the last I picked up would have been about 14 years ago. Picked up for Bill Hex. He got to doing the La Mesa Rodeo, and I'd go help him. Then I went to Clarendon a time or two for him. Vernon, maybe. There's so much stuff I can't remember anymore.
Yeah.
But I worked for Charlie, then Kelly Brothers, then Mack, and then Smokey Davis. You know Smokey Davis.
Mm-hmm.
He used to come to La Mesa Rodeo, and I went a time or two to South Texas for him. Then Bill Hex. I guess that's been about it.
Did Charlie ever have his pro card?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever did.
So when y'all would go over and help Harry or Benny,
we'd just haul a load of stock to them.
Y'all never picked up?
I never did get to pick up.
Yeah.
The first time I knew of Charlie leasing stock to a pro guy, I hauled a load of seven or 8 horses and 9 bulls to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and stayed up there a week with that stock. And at that time, Charlie maybe wanted it this way, I took care of the stock. But that's all I had to do. I could go, hook flanks or whatever if I wanted to during the performances, but the biggest deal was just take care of Charlie's stuff. And then he sent, the way I got in with Mack, Charlie sent 6 horses to Del Rio. And I carried those horses down there and got to be friends with Mack, and ended up, a year or two later, picking up for him some. Didn't get to do any pro rodeos because I didn't have my card, but he was doing lots of AJRA rodeos. He kind of took Kelly Brothers' place with the AJRA rodeos, and then Mack had the youth national finals in Fort Worth at Cowtown in 82 or 3. Trying to think what I wrote down last night. But just would have loved to kept doing it, and maybe gone to some pro shows.
Mm-hmm.
But I never had the money to be able to travel like that.
Mm-hmm.
That takes a lot of money. And back then it didn't pay very good, but I think now it pays pretty good.
Yeah.
To go pick up a perf somewhere. So,
yeah, it's I was telling Charlie that when the day before Pop died, he was going to Helotes, and I normally went with him, but I was going to Paris that weekend.
Yeah.
And I was going to fight, but we were standing there, and I was in my little car about to go be a bullfighter, and he was standing at his truck and trailer about to go be a pickup man. And we were just talking about rodeo, and he was like, I think I'd be money ahead if I just stayed at the house.
Yeah.
And I said something along the lines of like, well, I'd never ask you to quit. We're not in it for the money anyway.
Right.
And we shook hands, and then I left. And but anyways, I that was the hardest I ever cried at that time.
Yeah.
And it was the day before he died. I just knew I knew for years, I just deep down, I was like, I think my dad's I think he's going to die early.
Yeah.
I just had this feeling. I think it was a kind of a blessing from God, because I never took any of that for granted.
Right.
Being with him and all that,
Yeah.
hanging around him. But I say that to say, even the pickup man, and even as far as like, nobody really makes money unless you're the one winning everything.
Right.
But the contracts that the stock contractors get, I'm sure some of the big ones pay pretty well for pro rodeos, but I know the AMI rodeos don't.
No.
And you blow out a couple of tires and have to pay a vet for this or that, and before you know it, you broke even on a weekend.
Yeah.
But it's a tough business. Well, rodeo in general, not to mention on our end of the arena, the danger factor.
Yeah. Well, everything's changed so much now. There's sponsorships. When those guys first started pulling those big trailers and have a little Peterbilt truck, pulling them, I was like, man, those guys must be rich.
Oh, yeah, already.
And they picked rodeo, and wouldn't that be fun? Well, then you get to looking at they got sponsors to furnish them all that.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah.
Did you do you remember any cow fights or I got to thinking I was probably going to label this one, put this in our Texas Cowpuncher series. Because I know you've rodeoed quite a bit too, but spent most of your life running that ranch. Can you think of any bad horse wrecks you got in out there?
Well, yeah, in 95, that place has a kind of a box canyon on it. We were up on top of that rim rock going around there, and you had to go around 1.5 miles to get to the backside and then bring all them cattle back around. And there's one of them crossbred cows run off, and I wasn't probably making the best decision, but I took in behind her and got a rope, and I was tied on. And when she hit the end of it, it jerked that horse down to his knees, and we turned to flip. And somehow or another, it bent my knee backwards and tore the posterior ligament off the post in my knee.
Yeah.
And I went to get up, and I kind of hobbled around, finally got her on one side of my mesquite tree and my horse on the other side where I could finally get back on. I got back on and was going to try and pull her out to a road and trip her and tie her down. And I couldn't put any weight on my leg. I just pulled my pocket knife out. No, I didn't cut my leg off. I cut my rope. But yeah, that's one time I had to turn one loose.
Yeah.
I didn't like doing that very often.
Yeah.
Have to turn one loose after you got
Did you find her later?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
She's had that poly rope about 1.5 foot long.
Oh,
still
yeah.
around her horns, but she'd stepped on it grazing and stuff till that fall when we gathered them. She still had that rope around her head.
That's funny. Did you leave it there?
No, I took it off.
Yeah.
And I used to have it at the house hanging on the wall, and sometime during my years I let it get away, but I always thought, man, that you need to hang that up because that's look at it and think, don't do that stuff again.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Derek Begay has a dead head hanging, a bull skull hanging in his house somewhere, and I've just seen a picture of it, but it's got a rope around the horns with a frayed end on it, about 2 foot long, and he sent a Snapchat of it. It said, somebody broke rule number 1.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, that's a big difference in a lot of people around the country. You know, I call it the Texas Cowpuncher Series. Like, I'll interview other cowboys from wherever, but I'm from Texas, so most of my friends are also from Texas.
Yeah.
But I'm not necessarily just trying to stake a claim. This is the way everybody should do it. But man, there's a lot of people that don't really are fans of tying off. I've come to find out.
Yeah, that's well, I was up there by myself, and just, you know, I knew she was going to be pretty heavy. And I think if my horse hadn't have fell down, we'd have been all right. But
100%.
After the wreck, I decided it was better just to cut loose.
Yeah.
So, and then a cowpuncher, and his name is Tim Stout. He works for Mule Shoes. We were gathering some cattle one morning. He's riding a mule shoe colt, and we're 50 yards from the pens. We was over at Todd Holbrooks's, and these cows start kind of milling around like they're fixing to run off, and Tim shakes his loop down. He's left-handed. He's right next to the fence. This cow comes out, and he just took and kind of hooligan, caught that cow around the neck, and he turned that colt around, and when it hit, that colt jumped forward and downed his head, and his front legs were out. Well, that cow just took saddle, and Tim, right out over the head, his saddle, he falls out of his saddle finally, and the cow's running off with his saddle, hangs up in a cedar tree over there. That mule shoe horse is still bucking in a circle, squalling. That's about the biggest, funniest deal I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, it shook that saddle like it was nothing to it, just right out over it.
Because I guess if y'all just got to the holdup, he probably didn't have time to get off and tighten up. Yeah.
So it was quite the deal.
Yeah, that was what I was talking to Gage Morehouse, and he was talking about, like, everybody's got a wreck story about Tom, and he said mainly it was because anytime he would go to rope something, he would not get off and tighten his saddle. So there was always some story about a wreck with, and you're tied off to him. But that's funny. Yeah. Was whenever did you get to work with my dad, or my dad work with you around that time?
Your dad came 2 springs and helped us brand at the ranch. And y'all were a little bit, you came. I don't know if you remember it or not, but.
Well, I have a picture of that house in my head.
Oh, yeah?
Like, I can see you, and I knew I'd been there.
Yeah. Y'all got there one evening. Your dad put some shoes on a horse down there at the barn. You kids were running around up and down. We was worried about you getting on a rattlesnake or something. And your dad's trying to nail a shoe on and hollering. He's just, y'all get back over here. So, and I don't think your mother came that first year. Your dad was keeping y'all. None of you were in school. Y'all were all pretty little. So I think maybe she came the second or third day to help, but it's pretty funny. Your dad could stay so calm during the wrecks.
Yeah.
He just, nothing stirred him. So.
Except unless there was a snake involved.
Yeah, he didn't like the rattlesnakes at all.
Yeah. Didn't you throw one in to pick up with him or something?
Yeah, I always thought he was just kind of being a sissy. I thought I'd toughen him up a little bit. I killed one, held it up, showing him how big it was. My door was still open on the pickup. I pitched it in the floorboard. He bailed out the other side. Said a few choice words, threatened to whip me, so I decided we probably wouldn't do that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, he would jump 10 feet in the air if there was a rattlesnake. Golly.
Yeah.
Had you ever seen that one that him and Corey killed that's on my wall at the house? It was on his. Anyways, real big. It was like 8 foot long, big old thing. Had a rabbit in its belly when they killed it. And
oh, heck.
Him and Corey were on a little drive, and Corey wanted to get off and kill it right then. He was like, no, we'll come back. And my dad didn't think he would even be there. And they came back, and I guess trying to digest that rabbit, it was still sitting there, and anyway, I imagine that's probably Gigi. Yep. We're at my grandmother's house, everybody. I said that in the intro. Oh, that's Ryan. What's up? That's my cousin.
Yeah.
Yeah. You remember Ryan?
I do remember Ryan, but he's grown up a lot.
How are you?
I'm good.
Come on in. Yeah.
All right, man.
I'm good.
Yeah, all these stories, they say that your dad was the angel.
Yeah,
That'll be the first story I've heard.
he was the smooth talker of the bunch.
Yeah. Heck
We were at Nazareth one year, and I think the name of that liquor store was Elmer's. The arena's out east of Nazareth, and there's a little liquor store there, and Marvin Schulte owned the liquor store.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that rodeo was in August, it seemed like. Hot, miserable, and they always had a watermelon race. And what they did is those farmers around there would give the rodeo the little reject watermelons. Well, they'd put them in a great big trough at the end of the arena, fill it with water and ice, and two of you had to ride a horse down there, one get off, get the watermelon, and you couldn't hand the watermelon back to the guy that's on the horse. You had to get on holding that watermelon. And there were some pretty good wrecks out of that deal. But Coke and I decided one day we was just going to go sit in that ice tank, cool off and get over some of our soreness. And we're sitting in there in our boxers, and here comes a pickup load of girls and watermelons. And we just sat there. They went to throwing them watermelons in there. We wasn't about to get out in our boxers in front of them girls. But they filled her back up with watermelons, dumped some more ice in there, drove off.
Where do I sign up for that job?
Yeah, I know. Another year there at Nazareth. I don't know if Scotty was there or not. I know it was me and Coke. Anyway, we're in there, got through feeding the stock after the rodeo, and we went to the dance. And was inside there. I can't dance at all. You can ask my wife. I'm not a very good dancer. But anyway, there was a girl in there that just kept bugging me. Let's dance. That's okay. So we're dancing, and her dad and mom come dancing by. And he reaches over and taps me on the shoulder. He said, "You got her hugged up way too close." Well, me being the little smart ass, I go, "It's not me hugging, it's her. She's hugged up to me." And he got mad. And I took off got outside, stood around waiting on Coke to come out. Well, here comes about 5 or 6 of them Nazareth German guerrillas come out, and they got after me. Well, I got under a car. They kept hollering, "Come out, get your ass out here." I said, "No, I'm checking the U-joints. I'll be out in a little bit." Your dad finally shows up, and we ease on out of town.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I later, in high school, because of FFA, got to meeting other FFA kids, and
Yeah.
my dad being an ag teacher, I knew all the ag teachers, and I got my driver's license, and had a buddy over here in Smyre, came here a lot for a little while, but then went to Nazareth a lot.
Yeah.
And ran around with Garrett Kleeman. So there's a lot of Kleemans over
Kleemans
there.
and Schultes.
There's Schultes. His cousins were Schultes, and Marvin was there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to, but I did. They would all bring up how that they used to have that rodeo, and there would be, the C-Bar T crew would come in, and Coke, Scott, Wyndel would all show up. But yeah, that was
Had a lot of fun.
Well, is there anything else you wrote down that comes to mind?
That's one more. At the Youth National Finals in Fort Worth, there's a kid on the barrack horse. His rigging turned. He is hung. Dragging, did the kamikaze drag around about a time and a half, and I was riding Mack Altizer's tripping horse. They called him War Wagon, a little blue horse. And I eased up beside that horse and got him by the ears and got off on him, got him stopped. And just as, I can't think of what the clown was. Anyway, just as he got that kid lifted up where he could get him out of there, that horse reared up and pawed me in the back and, of course, knocked me off, but everybody was loose. And we were staying at a motel out there by Meacham Field. And me and D.L. Thunderbird, we decided we're going to go soak in the hot tub kind of down in the, bound by the pool. We get in there. It's close to 1 o'clock, 1:15. We get in there in our boxers again. And here comes 2 ladies, about 30 years old, had 2 bottles of wine. And they sat down at this little picnic table right there by the hot tub, and they're crying to each other about their husbands or boyfriends, whatever, and they keep sitting there. And DL goes, "Reckon they're going to drink both bottles of that wine before they leave?" I said, "I don't know, but I'm getting pretty drawn up in here, looking like a prune." And we neither one had the nerve to get out, so we just kept sitting there and sitting there and sitting there. They finally got both bottles of wine drank, and then they couldn't hardly walk, leaving. But they left, and we got out of the hot tub. You can imagine what 2 hours in a hot tub you look like.
Yeah.
But
That's funny.
just seemed like every time you try to do something to help you out, it turned out bad.
Shoot, yeah. Well, I appreciate you telling the stories. I've
You
just,
bet.
I don't know. I like hearing cowboy stories.
Yeah.
So figured I'd record them.
I enjoyed listening to a bunch of yours.
I appreciate it.
I have
Yeah.
people call all the time. "Did you hear Dale Brisby? You listen to Dale Brisby's new deal? He brought up your name again. You need to go. You need to go." I said, I don't know if I can handle it. Get to thinking about Coke. What a good friend he was. And, really and truly, I probably should have been the one that was gone from that fire.
Oh, shoot.
I lived through it and just wish Coke could have lived through what he had to go through.
Dang.
But
he was like, so I try not to remember things better than they were too much. I'd make something that, but I really do. I do think he was a great man and a good dad and good husband, good friend. And I don't know, sometimes it's a couple of things I think about. Number one, my granddad, his dad,
Yeah.
The last couple of years of his life, he didn't know really. He didn't know who I was. I'd tell him, and then it would kind of come back to him, or at least he would act like it did. I remember one day I came over here to this house. I took Gigi to Dollar General and came back, you know, because she's not going to go to a store more expensive than that. But when I got back, he was mad because he thought his wife had left with another man.
Oh,
And I was
no.
like, no, Pawpaw. And so that was sad. And so, you know, my dad didn't have to experience that, I guess.
Right.
But also, and what I think mostly is just like, you know, I don't know God's plan and how it works into the timing of when, you know, I'll
Right.
leave that up to him. But it was almost like, you know, God got to use my dad for all these things. And with our family, and then with, you know, his circles. And it was like God like kind of like took him back before he could mess it up.
Right.
Before my dad could mess it up, you know. It's like, and that was my experience with him, you know.
Yeah.
Like he was good at all these things, and it was like before he could really tarnish his own reputation or what God had used him for. It's like, all right, here's it. And then the fact that he was able to, you know, the blessing of it was, you know, he was riding a horse,
Doing exactly what he wanted to do.
and
Yeah.
you know, I mean, that would have been if any of us can write out a storybook ending.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah. Who else should I interview from those days?
Do you know Randy Davis? They called him Shaky. He was a bareback rider. Probably could have been NFR quality, but I don't think his body would have held up to it.
Right.
That guy, when he'd go to get on, he'd get over those bareback horses and he'd have a foot on the back side of the chute and a foot on the gate side of the chute, and the latch would go to rattling. And that's why we called him Shaky. He'd get so nervous, and you could hear the gates rattling and stuff. He'd get his hand in there, and now he'd ride one. But I think he'd be
Yeah.
a good guy.
That's awesome.
There's lots of little bull riders around that you see that maybe if they'd maybe walked the path a little cleaner, could have made it a lot further down the road.
Did you ever see Jim Sharp?
Yeah, when I was working for Kelly Brothers, Jim was riding steers.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he rode pretty good, but I didn't really think he'd stick with it. The first couple of rodeos I saw him at, and then it's like the light came on. It's like they were gluing him to them steers.
Yeah.
Yes. And
He said he said a couple times that Scotty would help him
Yep.
at the AJRAs
Yep.
and hold the, you know, steers bounce around in them
Yep.
chutes, and he said he would
climb down in there and push them
hold
steers
the
over.
steers
Yeah.
still for him.
Yep.
But yeah.
There was another. I was trying to think of who he was last night. It never did come to me, but a kid I thought would really, really, really make a good bull rider, and he did. And I can't think of who he is. I can see him just plain as day. Was a little kind of square bodied, you know, and this was when he was in AJRA, probably 16 to 19. And I sat there last night for an hour or so trying to think of little square bodied, kind of red headed kid, made a pretty good bull rider for 5 or 6 years, and then I never heard of him again. I'll think of who he was.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's cool. Well, heck yeah. Well, we normally wrap up with life advice. Got any life advice for me?
I do. Tell the truth and don't steal.
Okay.
I preach that to my girls, and it's hard to believe how many kids, they're not necessarily lying, but they're not telling the truth about stuff.
Yeah.
Just always be honest and don't steal.
Yeah.
That's my two biggest deals.
That's a good one.
That's my grandma Culp told me that when I was just old enough to start remembering stuff, and it stuck with me.
Yes, sir.
It's be the best you can be.
Mine is when life hands you lemons, put a bull rope on them.
Yeah. That's a pretty good one.
So, well, I appreciate everybody listening. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and we're going to get the AC turned back on in this house and get on to the next one. So, thank you, Wyndel.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for coming on.
Enjoyed it very much.
Yeah.
It wasn't as tough as I thought it'd be.
No, shoot. These are easy. Yeah, the cameras make people nervous, but yeah, just telling stories. There's no wrong answer.
Okay.
On to the next one. Thanks, Carson.